Good morning. Woohoo. Hey, welcome. Grab your coffees, grab your seats. It's good to be together. If you're joining us online, it's great. Thank you for joining us. It's been nice to see some chat and greetings already. Oh, it's cool. We're just going to jump straight in, and there's no preamble story. This is just what it's going to be. We're going to call it like it is. Have you ever noticed that when Jesus, I don't know if you've read some of the stories in the Bible, but have you noticed that Jesus actually ruffled a lot of feathers? He actually sort of caused problems. He annoyed people. He upset things. Things kind of got a bit, he upset the apple cart. And it's just kind of like, how and why? And if you read in the Bible, now the Bible is a collection of books. It's not just one book, although we think of it as one book. It's actually a collection of books. It's 66 different books that have been put together, and they tell the whole story, if you like. And it's almost like a library. It's different types of books. Some are history, some are poetry. And there's also books in there that are biographies. So there's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You might have heard of those 4 books. They're like biographies. And Matthew, Mark, and John were eyewitnesses. They were people who were living with Jesus, and they wrote down the things that they saw. And then Luke is more like an investigative journalist, and he recorded what he saw. And it says, at the beginning of the book, it says he researched all of these things to find out more about them. And that's why in the book of Luke, we know about the birth of Jesus, because it was Luke that investigated the story. So you've got 4 biographies about the life of Jesus, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I'll do my best Dr. Strange impression. My kids will be so annoyed. No. Carry on. Cool. Yeah. So you got Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. All of those are biographies. And Matthew, Mark, and John especially are eyewitness accounts. So the thing is, we don't believe in Jesus because the Bible tells us so. We believe in Jesus because Matthew, Mark, Luke, John tell us so. We believe in Jesus because Peter tells us so. Paul tells us so. Mary, Martha, the people that follow Jesus. We follow Jesus because these people who were with Jesus write about their experiences with Jesus. So we don't do things because the Bible says. We actually do things because Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, these people that follow Jesus say. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so think of the Bible as this narrative. And so we're looking at this collection. And when you read these firsthand eyewitness accounts that these people wrote about the life of Jesus, you can't get away from the fact that he absolutely upset the apple cart. He really did just ruffle feathers. And it's kind of, if you look at it, it's kind of weird to figure out, well, how did he ruffle the feathers so much? Because a lot of people, whether you're a follower of Jesus or not, a lot of people think like this. They think, well, Jesus was a nice guy. He was a good teacher. He talked about really pleasant things like love others, look out for widows, care for orphans, feed people if they're hungry. Hey, if they don't have enough clothes, make sure you give them some clothes. Jesus said some really nice things. He's kind of a nice guy. So if he was such a nice guy, then how in the world did he cause so many problems? And we want to look at that today. Because Jesus had this phrase that he said often. In fact, it's repeated 13 different times that they wrote about. Follow me. And so I want to look at, why did that simple invitation annoy so many people? Like what about that simple little phrase, follow me, caused so much problems? We're looking at how, in the midst of an uncertain world, that we can find certainty. And we're proposing that following Jesus is actually the best way to find certainty in an uncertain world. And for us to understand why that little phrase, follow me, caused so much controversy, travel back in time with me now, right? We're going to have to go back in time a bit and figure out, what was it like then? That's the issue. What was it like for those people then that were hearing Jesus say these words? And life in that society at that time was controlled, if you like, or regulated primarily by, for the Jewish people, their religious rules. They were governed in that way. That's how everything had to be done. There were certain protocols. I should have written an easier word down, shouldn't I? Certain rules they had to follow in certain ways at certain times. And that governed all of society. It governed what you wore. It governed what you dressed like. It governed who you spoke to, who you spent time with. It governed what you ate or didn't eat. It governed everything. It was the overriding filter that ran or ruled that society. It was run by the rules, if you like, or the religious society. And there was two groups of people primarily that helped make sure everybody was doing the right thing, because you know this and I know this because we all went to school, and you know that if you have rules, you have to make sure there's somebody there to make sure you follow the rules, right? So there were two groups of people, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, just big funny names that just meant two different types of people who both were passionate about following the religious law and Jewish purity, and they made sure that they upheld the rules. And a group of them formed a whole group called the Sanhedrin. And of the Sanhedrin, you had someone called the chief high priest, and the high priest was the main dude in charge. And it was all dudes at the time, by the way. So they are the ones that ran the political and the local government, if you like, the local society. They controlled everything and made sure everybody was doing the right thing at the right time. And you'll know this about religion. If you know about religion, it sort of has some certain things. And this is true whatever religion it is. This is true for all religions. And there's a little list we want to go through. Every religion has got this. They've got rules and regulations, because there's certain things you have to do at certain times in certain ways, and things you can't do. And they have rituals and repetition, things that must be done at certain times of the day or certain times of the year, or certain ways that things must be done. The way you pray, the way you wash your hands, the way you plow your fields, etc. But when you get into religion, you also then have these things called rank and reputation. Because the ones who follow the rules the best kind of move higher up on the ranks. And if you're really into following the rules, the regulations, rituals, and all those kind of things, you do it because your reputation looks good. Because if it's all about measuring how you look and how you behave, the better you do, the higher you go up in your rank and reputation. And of course, if you're going down this route, eventually we fall into making sure everything's right and righteous. And it's all based on how we perform. So if I'm doing it right, I get the gold star. And if you're doing it wrong, you get the boot. We make it right, and we make it self-righteous. And of course, this is how religion throughout the years, no matter what kind of religion it is, eventually some religions, and Christianity is the same, has done some pretty horrible, awful stuff to people all around the world throughout history, because we have all of a sudden thought we're right and righteous in how we mistreat people. Because it's all been measured on external performances and behaviors, and if you go down that right, eventually you make yourself righteous. And you're the only right person, and everybody else is wrong. That is the culture Jesus was born into. It's all about externals. It's all about behavior. Do this, don't do that. And that's what Jesus stepped into. And if you wanted to relate to God or know your God, whatever religion, you have to follow these things. If you're not doing those things, you're not going to get close to your God. You're not going to get anywhere near your God. You're not going to get your God to look at you or find favor with you, because unless you're doing those things, your God's not going to be interested. Right? It doesn't matter. All religion does this. All religion. Not just Christianity. All religions, you see? You have to do certain things in certain ways that you have to do for God. And then Jesus shows up. And the reason he came on earth is to show us a totally new way to relate to God. He said this, he said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. He wanted to show us a whole new way to think about God. And he wanted to show us a whole new way to approach God. And he starts off with two simple words: Follow me. Follow me. And those two simple words capture the essence of what's going on. They point to something incredibly personal and relational and different to everything else they had known. And today, this is the certainty we're looking at. Every day is an opportunity to grow in relationship with Jesus. Every day is an opportunity to grow in relationship with Jesus. And then Jesus knew, because everybody was so used to doing things in a different way, that he had to sort of try to explain it. And the best way he explained it was by telling stories. And his stories were more than just nice stories. It wasn't just like, oh, that's cool. The stories themselves had deeper meanings. And they were easy to remember, so you could walk away and you could think about it and chew on it. And the more you thought about it, the more you began to realize what it was he was talking about and what he was sharing with you. And so he told 3 stories. He gave like 3 pictures, of, if you like, of what it means to relate to God. And the 3 pictures that we're looking at today is he talked about a shepherd and a sheep. He talked about a vine and branches. And he talked about a father and a child. And when the shepherd and the sheep, it says this in this book of John, the guy that wrote John, one of the eyewitnesses, wrote down some of the things that Jesus said, and Jesus was teaching people, and he said this, he said to them, he said, the sheep listen for the shepherd's voice. He calls his sheep by name, and he leads them. He goes ahead of them, and they follow, because they know his voice. None of us here are shepherds that I'm aware of. Yeah, we might have a sheep or two, but we're not really. You know, nowadays, most of us really aren't shepherds. Back then, of course, there were more shepherds. It was an agricultural society, and people knew what was being talked about. And I found this fascinating when I looked into it. Sheep and lambs were not reared primarily for food. The goat was the main one that they ate. The lambs and sheep were primarily kept for their wool. And they wouldn't just wait, one season and kill it for meat. It would stay with the family for years. And they would care for them. The shepherd would know this flock. It wasn't sort of this, every 9 months it always changed. It was this flock that they had for a while. And the shepherd would care for his flock, and the shepherd would look after his flock, and the shepherd would have to protect them and make sure that they were kept safe from predators. And there's a number of different stories within the Bible where Jesus talks about different ways that people cared for the sheep. But then Jesus goes on to say, he said, I am the good shepherd who lays his life down for the sheep. And then he goes on to say, I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. Now, it sounds like a simple little story. Except when you begin to realize, if religion is all about your performance, what in the world can a sheep do? You know what I mean? Do you think the sheep get up early enough in the morning and the sheep make sure that they like, meh, 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 and they do like 12 bleats at a certain time of day to make sure that, the shepherd likes them? To make sure that they do certain things, right, stand up, and all the sheep get together and walk in a proper line, in line. And the one at the top is obviously like the chief sheep. The chief sheep is the one that follows the rules the best. And the chief sheep makes sure everyone else is doing it properly, right? I mean, what can sheep do to get the shepherd's favor? No, I'm not going to eat today because I'm having a grass fast. I mean, what are they? What kind of things are they doing to make sure that they seem more religious or more worthy of the shepherd's affection? A sheep can do nothing except be a sheep. And it's got nothing to do with the sheep's effort or work or performance, and everything to do with the good shepherd who's looking after the sheep, protecting the sheep, caring for the sheep, giving of their lives for the sheep. You see, the sheep in and of themselves can do nothing to make the shepherd love them more or less. The sheep are just sheep. See, Jesus' stories and illustrations are so much more than simple little stories and illustrations. He's always provoking and pushing us into different things. And I wonder, this is a radically different way to think about God, isn't it? To a society that's so used to making sure they measure everything, to all of a sudden sort of be told it's got nothing to do with that. That's a radically different way to think about God. Shockingly different way for them to think about their relationship with God. And I don't know how you feel your relationship is, but Jesus is saying, you can know my voice, you can hear my voice, I'll speak to you. I haven't done anything yet. I'm just a sheep. You can know my voice. I'll speak to you. I haven't performed enough for you yet. No, you can know my voice, and I will speak to you. I think that's crazy. You see, every day is an opportunity. Whether you're a Jesus follower yet or not, every day is an opportunity for you to grow in relationship with Jesus. It's so easy, so easy for us to rely on our own ideas, isn't it? Our own wisdom, our own good advice, our own good counsel. But maybe, whatever you got going on this week, maybe you could just take a pause. Maybe just take a second, just stop, take a breath and say, Father, what should I do here? Help me in this situation. Before you Google, how do I do, no, what do I do with, no, just say, help me today, Father, help me today. I can hear your voice. You go before me, you lead me. Just ask for some help today. Amen. Doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to do certain things in certain ways. Just say, hey, God, I'm ready to listen for your voice today. Maybe you've never prayed a prayer like that before. Just pause and just say, wow, what could it be like? And for some of us, maybe it'll just be a little thought in your heart and be like, oh. Or maybe it'll just be some peace that comes onto you for a moment and you think, thank you. And just move on with your day, yeah? But every day we can grow in relationship to Jesus. The other thing he talked about was his vine and branches. And he says this, he says, I am the vine and you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. But apart from me, you can do nothing. Again, he's using an example that people would understand because they worked with their hands, they planted stuff, they worked in the soil, they growing things. It's an agricultural, agrarian community. And he's talking about like this vine and the branches. And it's simply saying this. Where does the life come from? The branch or the vine? The life comes from the vine, not from the branch. It's saying this, and hey, you know what? If you got these grapevines and it's not connected, and you cut a branch off and it's not connected to the vine, it's not going to be producing any fruit. It sounds very basic, really. It's kind of common sense, right? So you sit here and you think, wow, Jesus, you're like an expert vine person now. You're telling me something we all know, right? Right? Can we be honest? Let's just be honest, right? Doesn't that seem like common sense? You cut the branch off and oh yeah, well yeah, I didn't expect that pile of branches to produce any fruit because I cut them off the tree. Right? Isn't it common sense? It is common sense, right? So what is actually being said here? Maybe there's something else going on. Because in a society that's so driven by rules and regulations, repetitions, rank, being righteous, doing all the religious things, it's all about your effort and your ability to produce something. Well, Jesus is saying the relationship with God is totally different. See, the branch can't muster up like a bunch of grapes or produce like some apples or something, right? Unless it's connected to the source of life, the source of strength. And the branch, again, isn't doing anything in and of itself, but the vine is giving it life. The vine, the source of life, is working through the branch to produce the fruit. Right? The branch isn't trying to earn any favor. Hey, look at me. I've got like 10 more grapes than you do. Ha, ha, ha. You love me more because I've got more grapes. Woohoo. The branches aren't competing with one another. The branches are doing what they're supposed to do, which is just produce fruit. And you only produce fruit if you're connected to the source of life. See, it's different. And the branch has to rely on the vine. The branch recognizes that this strength doesn't come from me, but it comes from the one I'm connected to. See, all of a sudden, when I'm in a situation, the grace, the mercy, the love, the forgiveness, the kindness, the gentleness, the self-control, patience, peace, the things that come out of me aren't because of me. That's the fruit of the Spirit, because if you're connected to the vine, then what comes out of the branch is the fruit. I don't have to try to muster it up. I just have to recognize that if I'm staying connected to the vine, then the fruit comes out of the branch. The branch relies on the vine. That's a radically different way to relate to God. It's a shockingly different way. It's not my effort or my work, but His work through me. See, religion says it's all about your work and your effort. If you work hard enough, if you do things right enough, then your God will love you more. That's religion. Jesus is saying it's not like that. It's the vine's work through you. That's a different way to think about things. And of course that would have upset people. Is this the way we think about our relationship with God? Do we sort of think about our strength and our life source from Him? It's so easy to jump into situations with our own abilities and our own strength. And maybe, just like we said before, maybe you just pause before a situation and you say, I rely on you. I need strength for today. I got a heavy day ahead. I know I'm going to get back into the office and there's a lot going on. I'm going to get back into the workplace. I'm going to get back into the school. I'm going to go see the rest of my family today, and I need some strength. Help me, Father. Is our first point of call just to rely and make sure that we are staying, that you remain in the vine? You see, every day we can grow in relationship with Jesus. That's our certainty. That's what Jesus is saying to us. And no matter how long or how recent you are a follower of Jesus, we all have the opportunity. Every one of us can grow in relationship with Jesus deeper and deeper. And the third picture he gives is this father and child picture. This was a well-known story. It was written in the book of Luke. So Luke wrote it down and recorded one of Jesus' stories. And Jesus told this story to show people what God the Father was really like. We did a series about this a couple months ago, and it's called What God is Really Like. We broke it down into 3 Sundays, so if you're interested in getting digging into that a bit more, head over to the YouTube channel. You can catch that. It's called What is God Really Like? But this story, Jesus tells, there's this dad, and he's got 2 sons, he's got 2 boys. He's got an older son and a younger son, and the younger son says to his dad, he says, Dad, can I have my inheritance now? He doesn't wait for his dad to die. He says, can I have it now? Which firstly would be insulting. I'd be insulted if I was a parent. And my kid says, you know what, Dad, you're as good as dead to me already. I think I'll just take the money. I'm going to cash in my chips and run, right? So it would have been offensive in that culture. He's saying, you're dead to me. He's taking the inheritance early. And so the father, but he does it. The father gives the son this money, gives him the inheritance. And like most of us do throughout the world, if we find ourselves with some unexpected resources, we think that they're never going to run out, and we just use them however we want to. And Jesus tells this story about this person, and he just goes to faraway countries, and he just squanders his money. He just spends it. He just uses it up. And then what we also know happens in life is it doesn't always stay sunny. Sometimes it goes a bit rainy, and Jesus says there's a famine that comes in the land, and things change. And as soon as things change, and oh wow, I'm going to have to figure out what I'm doing with my money now, and all my fair weather friends have left me. Now I'm getting desperate. And eventually at the end of the story, this son is so desperate, he's like feeding pigs at a farm. And pigs are shocking. So for the Jewish people, they wouldn't eat pork. And so for him to be sitting there trying to feed the pigs and care for the pigs, and it says that the son says this, he says, I'm so hungry I could actually eat the slop that the pigs are being given. I mean, that's pretty gross, right? And Jesus is making a point, he's trying to paint a picture of how far this son has fallen, if you like, or how far away from family this son has gone. And the son says, I know what, I'm going to go home, and I'm going to go back to my dad, and I'm going to beg for him to let me back in, and I'm just going to say to him, please, if I could just be like a servant or a slave, because I know at least on my father's farm, people are at least looked after. So I'm going to go there. I've got. Where else can I go? I've got nothing else left. I'm at the end of my rope, at the end of my tether. I'm spent. I've got nothing left at all. Where else can I go? And so the guy starts to head home. And it says that, excuse me, it says this. It says that even while he was still a long way off, he's still in the distance, a little dot on the horizon, his father sees him. He sees that familiar shape. He feels that, he can see that saunter or the rhythm or the way the son is walking. And the father sees the child a long way off. And he was filled with compassion. And he ran to his son, and he threw his arms around him. The son that's covered in the muck and the filth of working in the pig slop, He probably doesn't have any fresh clothes. He probably smells a bit like he's been walking for miles and hasn't showered in who knows how long, right? And the father runs to this child who is dirty and filthy and covered in muck, and he embraces him, he wraps his arms around him, and it says he kisses him. Jesus' story is like so elaborate with the father's response. And the son says, stop. I've broken your heart. I've sinned against heaven and against you. I'm not even worthy to be called your son. And he's trying to go on and say, please make me a servant, make me one of your slaves in your house. And the dad interrupts him, doesn't even let him finish his rehearsed speech. And he says, wait. Quick, get me the best robe and put it on him. He's shouting to his servants, grab a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it, because we are going to throw one heck of a party. And the fattened calf was saved for special occasions. It wasn't like you had a fattened calf just sitting around in the freezer. A fattened calf is a big deal in that society. Big weddings, big events, and the whole community, the whole village would come, and everybody would know that you're preparing the fattened calf. And it wasn't like a microwave, like bing, 60 seconds later, here's your Rustler's hamburger. This was like a fatted calf. This took a while to get this beast prepared. And you would tell people there's going to be a feast, there's going to be a party, because after we cook this thing, we got to eat this thing because it's going to go to waste otherwise. So, hey, tell all your friends, tell all your family members. This is what would have gone on in that society. And so by him saying that this dad is going to kill the fattened calf, everybody knows what that means. Everybody knows there's going to be a big party. There's going to be a huge party. And why are they having a party? Because the son of mine who was dead is now alive. He was lost, and now he's found. It's a crazy, crazy, crazy story. And it's so shocking. Now, the son's behavior was shocking. The older son, he kept all the rules, and his righteousness kept him from relationship with the father as well. We won't go into that today. We don't have time to go into that aspect of the story, but you can read about it yourself in Luke chapter 15. But whether you run away because of rebellion or you stay at home because of self-righteousness, both of those things separate you from relationship with the Father. You can be self-righteous, it still separates you. You could stay at home, it still separates you if you're self-righteous. Read about it in Luke 15. So the son's behavior is shocking. The younger son's behavior is so shocking and gross and filthy. But then all of a sudden, as Jesus nears the end of the story, it twists, because the greater shock is the way the father treated the son. Because no father in that culture would ever treat their son that way. You know, the son burned the bridges. The son cut him off. The son said, "You're dead to me." The son walked away. You know, the father's the one who's waiting and looking. You know, and you might feel like you're at a distance. You might feel like you're really far away. Maybe you feel like you're not even close to God right now. You're just at a distance. But let me tell you, there's someone who's looking for you, waiting for you, waiting for that time when it can just see you moving a bit closer down the path. And before you make it all the way to the gate or the front step or even make it to the door to knock, before you even make it that far, the Father's rushing out to greet you on the path. Rushing to meet you even when you're still on your journey to come back home. This is shocking behavior. It's shocking. It's shocking that the father would treat a rebellious son this way. It's shocking that the father would actually say, "No, clothe him, dress him, feed him, care for him." It's shocking behavior. And the father gives up his best robe, his sandals, and his ring and cares for the son. It's so shocking. And this is Jesus' point of the story. The father is different to everything you know. A lot of us don't like the idea of God as a father because our own fathers, our own dads, our own dads might be great, or our own dads might be jerks. Some of us may not know who our dads were. Some of us don't even want to know who our dads were, okay? Let's be honest. But Jesus isn't saying don't compare it to your heavenly father, your earthly father, because this story, this dad behaves so differently. Don't even go down the route of comparing it to your own dad, because that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is this father is so different to the way you expect them to behave on earth. It's not your natural father. It's a different, and this is the shock of the story. There's no other father like this. Because Jesus said, if you see me, you have seen the Father. I've come to show you a whole new way to relate to God, a whole new way to think about God, a whole new way to approach God. And when you follow me, you step into a whole new type of relationship. Every day we can grow in relationship with Jesus. Follow me is an invitation to discover something totally different. And those three stories just show us it's got nothing to do with religion. I think God hates religion. God the Father hates religion. He came to show us it's a whole different way of living and loving, and the way you learn Just follow me. Follow me, and you'll discover more. And this is why Jesus upset the religious elite so much. He was inviting people to follow, and it had nothing to do with their rules and regulations, rituals and reputations, rank and reputation, right or righteous. He's inviting people to follow him with a whole brand new set of rules. You see, of course, that would annoy everybody who ran that culture and ran that society, because Jesus is now saying there's a totally new way to do things, a totally new way to know God. Jesus is saying there is another way. There's another way. And all of a sudden, it's like he's telling you it's personal. He sat down with people and he said, hey, follow me. He didn't say, follow us. Hey, follow this organization. Follow this institution. Follow me. Follow me. It's personal. And it was relational. Shepherd and sheep, vine and branches, father, child. And Jesus was also saying, it's your choice. It's your choice. You see, religion wants compliance. Relationship gives you a choice. Religion wants compliance. Relationship gives you a choice. Religion says, you must do this. A relationship says, you can. I believe in you. You can do this. You can do this. I believe in you. Religion says, you must, you must, you must, you should, you should, you should. Relationship says, you can, because I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe in you. You can. You see, religion says God is against us. Relationship says, I am for you. And of course, those two simple words, follow me, upset everything about the religious elite, because Jesus is destroying the whole system that they have been building for thousands of years. He is destroying the whole thing. Paul later on, he writes, he says it's been obliterated. Destroy the old system, because there's a new way of doing things. And maybe you're here this morning, you're just exploring faith. Maybe you're wondering, curious, or maybe you've been a follower for years. And wherever you are on your journey, whether you're just exploring, just discovering, or maybe you're further down the road, like, done it for years and years, we all have the opportunity to follow. Because every day is an invitation. Every day is an invitation. And I don't know if you think that you've done something in your life that may or may not disqualify you. Maybe you feel like, well, if we only knew your story. Sorry, this is really loud. If we only knew your story, then we would disregard you. If we only knew all of the stuff that you'd been up to, you would be disqualified. Maybe you feel like you've made too many mistakes. I don't know. But the criteria to follow is not based on you, but it's based on the one who invited you. See, if you ever thought you were disqualified, you just got to think again about those little pictures. The shepherd and the sheep, the vine and the branches, the father and the child. None of those stories had anything to do with them performing or earning the favor. It's impossible. Impossible. And the criteria is based only on the one who invited you. I love the way this is written by a guy named Andy Stanley, and he says this. He says, being a sinner can never disqualify you. It's actually your prerequisite. That's what you have to do first. Jesus only invited sinners. All of Jesus's earliest followers were sinners. Jesus invited them before they got better, before they'd even committed to get better or promised to get better. He invited them before all of that stuff. Jesus invites people who know that there's something wrong, but they don't know what to do about it. Jesus invites people who know something is wrong, but they don't even want to do anything about it. Jesus invites. Being a sinner doesn't disqualify you, and being an unbeliever can't disqualify you. Jesus only invited unbelievers. None of the earliest followers were believers. They learned to believe after they learned to follow. He constantly, all you have to do is read these biographies about the life of Jesus. He constantly talked to them about their unbelief, the things that they didn't believe. It happens all the time. And in fact, it happens so often that one of his closest followers was actually called Thomas the Doubter, Thomas the Unbeliever. In his close circle of friends, one of his closest mates who'd spent time with him was actually known as Thomas the Doubter. Doubting Thomas is how he's remembered. You see, Jesus invites the sinner and he invites the unbeliever. That's your prerequisite. That's your entrance card. You want to come in and follow Jesus? Let's see, what are you, a sinner? Yep. Welcome. Unbeliever? Yep. Welcome. Perfect. That's the ones we're looking for. That's the ones we're looking for. And the majority of Jesus' followers actually didn't even believe he rose from the dead. You just have to read the biographies, write about what they wrote about it. Jesus is back from the dead. No, he isn't. Somebody stole his body. Like his own followers didn't even believe it had happened. And they write about their unbelief. It's crazy. And when you read these firsthand accounts of when Jesus says to people, you discover this is the rhythm, this is the pattern, this is how it goes. It says, follow me, and then you'll believe. Follow me, and then you'll learn to live like I live. Follow me, and then you'll learn to love like I love. Religion demands that you change first. A relationship knows that you will change over time in the relationship. Religion wants you to perform up front and change first before you're worthy. A relationship says you're worthy because I invited you to follow me. This is why Jesus' little simple phrase upset so many people. And an encounter with Jesus is that simple invitation for all of us. Maybe today this could be your first step. Maybe you're at that stage of like, wow, I'm just exploring faith, and you're ready to take that next step. And we'd love to journey with you. Our heart is that New Life Church is a place that people can find and follow Jesus. That's our vision. We want to be a place for people to find and follow Jesus. And if you're not yet a Jesus follower, you are so welcome here. Because you belong even before you believe. And for those of us who are religious, if we're not happy with that, then you need to find a different church. Because we will be comfortable with the people that Jesus was comfortable with. Those who do not yet know what to believe are welcome here, and they belong. Because none of us have to perform to earn God's favor. And the invitation is open for all. And maybe you're in that journey of like, you just want to learn more about what it means to follow Jesus, and we would absolutely love to walk with you. We'd love to journey together because we are all learning together. We'd love to pray with you. If you'd like someone to pray with you, we'll pray with you as well after the meeting. Another way people can get involved, maybe you're thinking, hey, I'd like to just discover a bit more. And there's some really practical things you can do. For example, like You could get involved, serve on a team, get to meet some people. You could join a small group. You don't have to be a member of New Life Church to join a group. We don't require that. It's like, just come and discover. Begin to build relationship, ask questions, build community. And we're going to have some people at the back. There's a welcome table at the back. And Sam, who started the service off this morning, is also going to be back there and help answer any questions. If anyone wants any information about how to just get involved in a few things, hey, we'll be happy to chat to you. And maybe there's some practical things, because if it's all about relationship, at some point you have to decide to get into relationship with somebody else and start to learn what we do, because we learn together in community. That's a next step. That's a practical next step. And so we just want to help one another to learn and grow. And as we look at this series, follow me. I just pray and I hope that you understand and walk away realizing that every single day you have an opportunity to grow in relationship with Jesus. Every single day is an opportunity to grow more in relationship to Jesus. Just like the sheep can hear his voice, you can hear God speak to you. Just like the vine and the branch are connected. The branch knows that the strength comes from the vine. You can know God's strength in whatever you're facing in life. And just like the child who's welcomed home, you can know that there is always a home for you. And nothing you have done will ever disqualify you from being welcomed at the Father's house. It's impossible. Nothing can disqualify you from the Father's embrace. That's what that story tells us. Because Jesus told us a whole new way to relate to God. I'm just going to take a moment. We can pray together. Cool. Yeah, let's pray. Jesus, God, we thank you so much for who you are. God, we just thank you for the incredible way that you came to just teach and show and guide and give us a new way to live. Thank you so much for that. God, just thank you for every person here today. Thank you for how much you love them, how much you care for them, that you've given your Son for them. God, that you died and you rose again to show us a whole new way of living, a whole new way of life, God. Thank you so much for that. And God, I just pray for every person here, whether they feel like they're so far away from you or whether they feel close to you. I just thank you so much that for each one of us, we can all grow in relationship with you. Thank you for your strength and your goodness, and in your name we pray. Amen. We'll wrap it up there. If you've got little kids, make sure you grab them from over there. But if you'd like to chat to any of us, we would love to speak to you. And just be at the welcome table at the back if you want to talk about anything. The children's work finishes at 12, so you've got a few minutes now if you want to hang about. But if you got some questions, please come and see us at the table. We'd really love to speak to you.